So hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And so last time we did two charts. Their names were the genesis of life and the physics of everything. And so these charts were very interesting. And I thought, what if we created a couple of other charts about it? So this is part one of one of the charts, two of the charts I'm going to make. Maybe I'll make some newer charts in the future. But today's chart is about religion. So religion, there are various things about it. However, this took seriously a lot of time. So make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and share this video to others. And this is my main chart in which I talk about religion. And so religion is a complicated topic. Even before we get into the chart, we have to understand what religion even is, because religion can be different in terms of meaning, because many different people think different things about religion. Religion is something. Religion can be three types of things. Somebody like a group of followers who follow a person, or most normally a godlike being, or an eternal being, or whatever you could say, or beings. There could be two possible things they can worship, or even multiple, thousands even if they wanted to. Atheism is specific because atheism, there's no God, there's no powerful being, there's humans usually. And humans are the ones that create things and teach them how to live on the life. It's less like a religion but a way of living. But anyways, let's get into the video. So at the beginning we see religion. And so religion is the main beginning of this, because you have to remember that religion started around the time, right? A bit after, you could say it was around 4100, around that time, BCE. And the reason why I say BCE, well, we'll get into that later. So there are really three branches of religion: atheism, tribal religions, and God. So let's travel the God path because it's a more important part. Now before we start getting here, there's an interesting point called theism. Theism basically means to believe on an eternal being, and that's what this branch really is. So there's really a theism part here, and that's what the ends of polytheism and monotheism have. So polytheism and monotheism are very different things. Now polytheism, in that there are multiple eternal and super powerful beings, right? And monotheism has only one being, which is powerful, right? So let's go to monotheism first, because the large majority of the population, around 84%, I believe, and 80% around that percent follows monotheism. So there are two branches of monotheism even: non-Abrahamic and Abrahamic. Now Abraham, for my Muslim friends, is called Ibrahim, sorry, not Abraham. So that and disclaimer, I am a Muslim and I'm going to be viewing all of this in an academic way. I'm not going to view it from any religious standards. So let's go to monotheism. So there are two religions, and now there's Druze, and you may be like, Druze is an Abrahamic religion. Now let's talk about Druze. Druze is really just caliphate leaders, or like the higher leaders of the caliphate. Some of them decided that they wanted a religion about Tawheed, and that's what they made, Druze, and that's from Islam. It came from Islam because one of the 5 pillars of Islam, which is Tawheed, is based off that area. However, it's also similar to Shia Islam in a way, so we cannot really connect anything here. So Druze and Deism. Deism is again not really a religion. Well, Deism is a continuation of theism, or like around that thing, and so these are really two things. However, this gets a spot in the chart because it's, according to Wikipedia, it is for some reason a religion. So then there are the Abrahamic religions. There are Jew and Islamic at the beginning, and Christianity. Now these have many branches, and I didn't cover all of them because there's way too many ways of interpreting them. So there are really just two. There are just really three for Islam, three for Christianity, and none for Judaism. So let's look at the bottom. Sunni, Shia, and Ibadi. Ibadi is an Islamic branch which gets overlooked very often. It basically is about more spiritual, and like meditation is required in this, and many other ways of worshipping. It's mostly is in Oman now, so that is an area where some Omanians have believe. And then there's Sunni and Shia, which you already know. So Sunni is in Iran, and Sunni is in Saudi Arabia. No, this is not what you should, but it's here and here. Ignore all the writings above there. Saudi Arabia is where Sunni originated from, and all of this, and Iran is where here, generally around this area is Shia, and around this area, and some around this area. That's mostly Shia. Now there are multiple branches of even Sunni, Shia, and Ibadi. Now this is not really a branch of Ibadi, but it's technically just a branch of Islam by itself. It's not Ahmadi. Now Ahmadi is kind of like Christianity. Have you ever heard of the missionaries? Yeah, you probably know who a missionary is. Now if Christians do missionary work, then Islam must, but it's not that way. Islam doesn't say to spread missionary work. However, Ahmadi has done that, the Ahmadis. So that's what the Ahmadi branch really means. And there are all of these branches, Maliki, which are mostly around here. Then there are Shafi, which are Indonesian and this area, like the Somalian area. And then there are Hanabali, which are the areas of Saudi Arabia. And there are Hanafi, which is here, around this area. Most of India Islam is like the Indian Muslims are also Hanabali, and so these are all of the things. And you may be like, what is Baha'i? Baha'i is a new faith that arrived, and basically 100 years ago, and it's one of the fastest growing religions in the world. It's probably second to Islam. However, it has reached around 6th or 7th in the believers rank, and it only appeared 100 years ago. So that's interesting. However, Judaism is another thing, and now it's an important time to remember that all of the Abrahamic religions have by itself and a book. So the only exception here is David or Dawood's books. So Psalms, that's a book, but it did not necessarily have a religion. Then Moses had the Torah or Taurat. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has a Quran, and Abraham has scrolls, and then Jesus had Bible, and all of these things. Those are all like the religions here. And so the only exception is this David, and Abraham did not necessarily get a religion, a book, but it's important, so we put it there anyways. So that's the brief overview of Islam. Next, let's go to Christianity. Now Christianity has really three branches, and it's important to remember that it has Catholic, the Protestant, and the Orthodox. What are those? Well, the Orthodox is the eastern area is one of the parts of Orthodox. This is Orthodox. Ignore this again. And then this is another part. So all of these are really Orthodox, and then there are Protestants, which happened after Martin Luther and many other people wanted a reform and wanted to have less religious things in their life. And that's what Protestants are. They live all across Europe now, but it's mainly here, most of North America, a bit of Africa, and yeah. And then And then there is Catholic. Catholics are mostly the original type of Christianity. They go around here. They also go around here, and except the Muslims, okay, around here. That's the real area, and that's about it. So that's the Christianity's branches. However, it's important to remember that there are also different types of churches in Christianity. So the Catholic Church, Protestant Church, and Orthodox Church are what you know. But there are also other branches, and I have not covered all of them because there are way too many. I know about the Unitarians and everything. I know about all of them, but there are way too many to fit in this chart. So these are the main ones I found online. So this is, first of all, I'll go on the order of which are more popular. So there is Presbyterian, there are Methodists, there are Lutheran, the Reformed Church, then the Anglican, and then Eastern Orthodox, Eastern Catholic. And yeah, those were the only ones I'd really put there. There are a lot of branches here. However, we have to go to polytheism. We didn't even discover that yet. So polytheism is them worshipping multiple gods. And there are like three major, although there are thousands of different polytheists around the world, there are three major polytheist religions. And I've been able to find them as Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. So Buddhism and Hinduism you already know. Jainism you might not know, but I'm going to tell you what Jainism is. So Jainism is essentially just someone was born in Kashmir and he basically went around there, and so the founder of Jainism is actually known as Mahavira, and he was in basically one of the people who was set on like an area where there's eternal bliss. You can think of it as like this. You know, moksha, that's what India believes in, most of Indian religions. Basically, they say that you are in an infinite cycle of life and death, and to escape it, you must go to moksha, a place where you have no karma. And karma is basically something that gets attached to you as soon as you do bad or good deeds. And that's essentially what Jainism is. It also teaches not to kill any organisms. You cannot even eat any meat, first of all. Number 2, you cannot even eat any rooted food. Number 4, they even have to broom their floors because it could be damaging them. And they have to wear a mask so that they don't attack airborne microbes. They even can't bath because that's a problem for waterborne things. And that's essentially what Jainism is. There's much more things, however, yeah, I don't have time for that. So Buddhism is, in short, another polytheistic religion which essentially tells you that you should not like starve for other people. You should also not like be big and stealing wealth from the poor. You should be in the middle, essentially. That's what Buddhism says. And Hinduism, well, you know what that is. There's multiple gods, and it's kind of hard to explain because there are hundreds of sectors of Hinduism because it's such a large religion. However, there are a couple of normal main branches, and the thing about these are that the main god they worship, and there are multiple gods. However, there is only one main god, and then there are all of the other gods. So the main god they worship are different, and that's what these are talking about. Next, we switch our focus from this part of the chart, which is the most important part, to this part. So there are the tribal part, and so there is tribal Greek, Eastern Asia, tribal villages, Egypt, Mayan, and Roman. Now, we have to essentially go to Eastern Asian religions, tribal religions, and Egypt, because it's important because it created Zoroastrianism. And basically, there was a person named Zoroaster, and he created the biggest monotheistic religion at that time. The first monotheistic religion, you could say. And then there was New Egyptian religion, which was monotheistic. And so this combined is what created non-Abrahamic and monotheism. It's that essentially. Atheism next. We talk about atheism. We think that there are the people who don't believe in God. However, there's various sectors of atheism. And so there's accommodationists, which essentially think that, well, we have to get common ground between God-believing people and non-God-believing people. And then there are atheists who criticize the people who actually believe in God. And these are the people we talk about when we are saying, they are saying that Christianity, they should not exist. And these are the people that they are talking about. Then there are agnostics. Agnostics are the main person I want to talk about. Agnostics it's debatable about agnostics. We cannot figure out the answer if there is a God or not. And that's why agnostics are like that. And that's why there are two religions that I made from it. Taoism and Shinto. These are the two religions. One of them originated in China and Korea, and the Shinto originated in Japan. Then there's humanist. Confucius is one of them. Now, you know Confucius. He was a very important philosopher in China, and he basically taught the Chinese people on how to respect a higher rank and to live on with life. And that's basically, that's the atheist area. And so we have actually done that chart. However, before you start clicking away, don't click away yet. That was just the chart. We haven't talked about the story. First of all, we have to talk about all of these atheist religions because they're actually very important. Then we have to talk about Zoroastrianism and all of the Abrahamic religions. So there are three Abrahamic religions: Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. So Islam began with my prophet, but it doesn't matter if it's yours. But basically, Prophet Muhammad, and basically he wanted to. He was in a cave meditating. It's known as the Cave of Hira in Mount Noor. It's in Arabia here. You know, it's in Mecca, especially Mecca. And so in that area, there are thousands of tourists now actually there. But basically, he was meditating. And suddenly when he was meditating, an angel appeared before him. And you know that angel if you follow any of these religions. You know that angel. And that angel's name was Gabriel or Jibril, whichever one you say. And so he said, read or Ikra in Arabic, right? He said that. And so when he said Ikra, Prophet Muhammad was very scared all of a sudden because he was meditating in peace for a couple of hours, and then out of a sudden in a dark cave an angel appears, and whenever he looks there's an angel. There's Gabriel everywhere, and he's all of a sudden scared. And so they revealed the first verses of the Quran and the Holy Book of Islam, right? So that was essentially what happened. However, after he started spreading it in Mecca, since Mecca had an actual Mecca, sorry, I'm not pronouncing wrong. Yeah, since Mecca actually was trading gods, which is weird that they were trading gods, but I cannot say anything about it. I don't know. Maybe they can trade gods. So they were trading idols like that, and which were worshipped, and they were essentially gods. And so after one god started to become a thing, they kicked him out because all of a sudden they realized that, wait, our main source of income would be gone. And so he escaped to Medina, and that's such a short story. And then when Medina was spread with Islam, they attacked Mecca and they took it over. And then the rest of Arabia would just convert. And that's the story of this area in short. So then is Judaism. So Judaism, in fact, didn't begin in Israel like many people think. Now, if you are a Jew, one of the 15 million, then you probably know this story already. And even if you are Christian, you probably also know this story already. Every single Abrahamic religion knows this story, because Judaism essentially created Islam and Christianity, because that was the original Abrahamic religion. So basically, a few generations earlier, there was Abraham or Ibrahim. He was actually believed in one God, right? And then he went to the promised land, or Canaan, which is what actually is talked about. And from Mesopotamia, he went to Canaan, this area, or the Levant, whichever way you say. You could also say Israel, but whatever. And he went there. Later on, his descendants went to Egypt to do some other things, because there wasn't much in Canaan back then. Canaan didn't have much. It was just a resourceful, no human paradise type thing, right? And so what they did is they skipped to Egypt because there was much more things there at Nile. However, as the story goes, there was slavery in Egypt at that time, and Abraham's sons actually became slaves in Egypt. So what happened then was that there were hundreds and thousands of Israelites there. And so what Moses was born, and he was kept on the river Nile in a basket. Later on, the Pharaoh's daughter picked him up and adopted him, and that's what happened. After that, he lived in the Pharaoh's life until one day he went out just for no reason, and then he found a burning bush, which was in fact God in the form of the burning bush. God said that you must lead the Israelites from Egypt to Israel, or the promised land. And so Moses was like, okay, so let's move it. So he went to Cairo or Alexandria, whichever area they were in, and they led all the Israelites out. And then there was like Egypt army won't allow this. Slaves getting up, that was not an idea. Slaves could not be freed. So they encircled them around the river Nile, or I think it was the Mediterranean Sea. And so what happened was God actually made the Mediterranean Sea half cut, and then they could go to Israel. They went through the torch and went to Israel. And after that, the kingdom of Judah, Jacob, he was another important person. He had 12 sons, and out of them one was his favorite. That son had two other sons which got 2 tribes. Normally there would be 10 tribes, 1 for 1, but his grandsons would actually get 2. So that's what he got, 12 things. And so the 2 tribes united to make one big tribe, and this was the kingdom of Judah. And up top there was the kingdom of Israelites, because Israel, one person had existed, he would become that. And so Judah and all of these things happened. And so after that, eventually the Mesopotamians invaded, and here was the time where the Jew term would begin, and the Torah would actually start to begin and everything. And that was the whole story of Judaism. It's actually a very old story, that's why I know so much info about it. And then Christianity. So Christianity has a pretty obscure origin. Many Christians will know it. However, for some reason, I don't know much about it. However, I do know that essentially Mary had a son. Mary, whatever her name was. He had a son whose name was Jesus or Isa alayhi. Okay, keep in mind that there are different names for Islam and Christianity. Okay, so he actually began to spread Christianity, and the Roman Empire didn't accept him. In fact, they tried to kidnap him once, however it didn't work. Later on, he would be crucified, and he would make the Bible official, and that's the Christianity story. I don't know much about Christianity, I'm sorry about that, but whatever. So next, let's go. There's Buddhism and Hinduism. Now these are very interesting because Buddhism has a story about it, but Hinduism is actually very old, and we don't know if it's mythology or if it's true. Now I'm not saying it's a myth. It's true, but the problem is it's so old that we cannot fact check which is true and which is false. So that's the reason I cannot tell the official story, because there are multiple interpretations of it. Like Judaism, even Judaism is still early compared to Hinduism, but still it's talked about. It's still very debatable, so you can understand. However, Buddhism, which I can actually tell you what the Buddhism story is. So this is the general normal way of saying Buddhism. So Buddhism essentially started when there was a king in the one Republic of India, right? And so that king wanted his son to take the throne. However, many people were talking about how his son would become a religious leader. Rumors started to spread, and so the king did normal things. He just put him in a palace and didn't let any outside pains of life be seen by him. And so when he went out for the first time, he saw a sick person, an old person, and finally a dead body. And so when he saw that, he went in like a trauma state, because he had never seen this before. And so he found a lonely buck and he stayed beside him, starving for days. But later on, he came back and he started to eat, because he realized he needed to be in the middle of everything. And that's essentially what Buddhism is. Now, other than that, there are not many things. However, I wanted to talk about what religion actually does. So, religion is interesting because religion has three interpretations, and one of them is an absence of religion. I just wanted to talk about this for a second. However, do you know what a cult is? A cult is something like a religion, and it has become basically like it's a religion. A cult is a religion. It becomes synonymous with it. However, I just wanted to talk about this. There are multiple types of cults. You can't just say a cult is just a normal religion. It obviously has conspiracy and weird ideas, and especially it's not a religion. Cults and religions are different because there are different types of religions, obviously. However, cults also have different types of cults. So cults have one part which is religious cults. So what you really should be saying when we are comparing cults and religions is religious cults. I just wanted to bring that out for a second, because many people think that that's the way. And it has become really simplified, like socialism, communism, all of these things. I don't want to get into ideology too much, because that's for the next video. But basically, you understand the idea. Many people are simplifying ideas too much. And so, just be careful of that, especially when talking about religion, because if you do it too much, it could possibly cause you to become very targeted. So, just be careful of that. Other than that, there are some other things I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about Abraham's religious tree. So Abraham had really two sons. Like I was saying, there were two sons, Ishmael and Isaac, or Ishmael and Ishaq, whichever way you say. Now, Ishmael actually led to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the caliphates, but Isaac actually led to Moses and Jesus, or Musa and Isa. So these are the two things, and that's why Abraham is really important. You could say Noah is the most important. However, it's debatable. Even Adam is possible. So that's overall the view of religion, and different churches, different types of the main religion, and probably things you didn't know. You would expect it will just be the core ones, but it isn't. And that's essentially what religion is. And this happened multiple times before. Like this actually, polytheism happened much earlier than monotheism. That's important. This also kind of stays like the time scale. So keep that in mind. It's not exactly the time scale, but it's around that time scale. So